Hi guys, nice to see you again.
Hi.
Hi, so last time we talked about, the structure of DBT. This time I'd like to talk about the theory and the theory that drives DBT and why it's unique and how it explains families. So this is actually a theory about families. Okay?
Sounds pretty boring.
I know, I'm going to make it as interesting as possible. So on one hand, there's the biology, which is talking about your emotional experience. And then there's, on the other hand, is environment, which is, families. And then later on, it's peers, bosses, the whole nine yards. So we start with the family. So the biology starts with individuals who have more emotion than others. So are you ever in school and you notice you're more upset than your peers, or things bother you more than
So,
other
like, by
kids
peers, do you just mean, like, the other people?
Yeah, kids in your class.
Okay.
Good point.
So, like, do I get, like, pissed off at them?
Or do you get more pissed off than your peers about things?
Well, they're really stupid, so, that's why I'm pissed off at them.
Well, that's fair. And do you notice they get as pissed off as you do?
Well, I don't know, like, sometimes, I guess.
And how about like sad or disappointed or anxious or any of those other emotions?
I don't know, I mean, we don't really spend a lot of time talking about our feelings.
Well, that's understandable. So what that's called is being more sensitive to emotions. And some people are. Some people are more likely to feel emotions and others do not. Does that make sense to you?
I guess.
Does that maybe explain part of you?
I guess.
Okay. The next part is having more intense emotions than others. So when you have an emotion, it's bigger than other people's emotion. So for example, some people might get annoyed and be like, oh, I wish that didn't happen. And other people might say, I can't stand this, and storm out of the room. So that'd be a bigger emotion of, say, disappointment or annoyed. Is that something that rings true to you?
I guess.
Okay. How about you? Do you see this at home?
I do. I mean, think of your brother, right? He gets upset, but you get pissed
Well,
off.
because you're
like a
easier on
rat.
him. That's why he doesn't get as upset.
There we go.
Okay. So the last part of the theory is, do you ever notice it takes a longer time to calm down than others? And
Yeah, because she won't leave me alone.
Okay. So that's called slow return to baseline. And what happens when it takes longer to calm down is, unfortunately, the world doesn't stop to let you get all the way down to baseline, which is a neutral place. So it tends to cause the next emotion to kick off quickly and just as intense or more intense. So it's like a roller coaster sometimes. People call it, like, I'm on a roller coaster. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, that kind of sounds right.
Okay. So is that something you see at home?
Yeah, so
In
what should I
comparison
do?
to-
Like, leave her alone until she gets
Well,
back?
we're pretty
We'll
nice.
talk about that a bit later. Bear with me on this. So that's the emotional kind of biological difference of people with more emotions. On one hand, it can get you in a lot of trouble or get you, conflict at home or things like that. On the other hand, it can make you more creative, more compassionate. Hey, a lot of therapists who have a lot of emotion become therapists. Or you become a good friend if you can manage it in the right way.
So are you listening to all, like, these good things, too? Because I hear, like, a lot of good things.
Hey, look, I often tell you how generous and compassionate you are. I do, right?
So a lot of the people I work with who are pretty emotional also get really upset to see other people picked on or say the wrong things or, snide remarks to other people, or even, politically, when somebody has a, kind of discriminatory value that they don't believe in. So understandable, they're standing up for their values and at the same time very strongly. So it's good, but it can also get you in trouble, which sounds like kind of hits home. Okay, so let's talk about the environment. So the environment is, again, going back to families, well, you and the rest of your family at home. And then certainly teachers and things like that might also apply. So if you have an validating environment, the family kind of totally understands your emotional experience and knows how to adapt to help you.
Sounds like it must be nice.
That doesn't sound like it's what's happening. And an invalidating environment is a family that's saying, I don't know why she's acting this way, or I don't know what to do. Like you said.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, so that's kind of invalidation. And the parts that are seen is, I don't get it. I don't know why you're doing this. You know, can you just stop and pull it together? Might be things that come from an invalidating environment. And, you know, the next part is, you know, you might respond to the bigger emotions more so than the smaller emotions. So an example is you're walking down the hall and you might see you're sitting in a room looking annoyed but not doing anything. You might keep going because you have a busy evening.
Well, and I don't want her to blow up.
Right. So then you go downstairs, maybe you're cooking dinner, you know, doing something, and you hear a lot of banging and you know, things around the room. What would you do?
I run upstairs.
Of course.
I check on her. I'm worried.
Right. So that's a natural response, and it also responds to bigger emotions. So, you know, the cycle of biosocial theory isn't like she does something and then you do something. It goes like this. So it goes like this. You do something, she does something, you do something, she does something, and it never really stops. So you respond to a big emotion, and, you know, natural learning, regardless of your intent, is if I have a bigger emotion, I get more responses than when I have a smaller emotion, like just sitting in my room being anxious or pissed off. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So a lot of people often come out of kind of this experience figuring a bigger emotion is going to get a reaction. And you might see the same kind of thing at school. If you have a small emotion, no one's paying attention, but the big emotion, people have to stop and listen, pay attention. And often, a lot of times, environment says, just pull yourself together, cut it out, go to your room and you know, get yourself ready for dinner. We can't have this at the dinner table, or, you know, just cut it out. Things you've heard?
Yep.
So that's kind of oversimplifying the situation, which is, if she could do that, wouldn't you? For example,
Probably.
how long might, say, anger last? When you feel angry, how long does it sit around with you?
Oh, it feels like forever.
Yeah. Sometimes I've had others say it'd be all day or even to the next day. They're still just as bothered as the day before.
Yeah, like sometimes the next day I think about it and then I feel angry like all over again.
Absolutely. And that's part of it's a slow return to baseline, again, we talked about. And then part of it's also, it just, you know, well, it's really slow return to baseline, but because your emotion's so high, it just takes so much longer to get down. And then the environment might not understand why you're still angry the next day. What's this about? You know, can't you just let it go? So that's kind of another concept. So what's the conclusion of all this? Because it's not a one-time deal, it's over time, because you're trying to figure out what to do, and she's trying to figure out to do as well. Because most people who stay angry for multiple days, it's not like they say, wow, I love anger, I want it to hang out for days. It doesn't feel good, does it?
No.
So the downfall is then you're sitting in misery for days feeling this angry, and the environment's like, stop, and she doesn't know how.
So, but sometimes she pulls herself together. I mean, I see it. So, I guess at home she's not trying.
Well, I don't think it's not trying. I think reality is anyone who's coming into DBT has some skills, and sometimes they work. And at the same time, they might not have all the skills they need to do it. And it might be due to the intensity of the emotion or how many emotions she's had in a row, which makes it harder and harder to then pull herself together or pull yourself together.
Is that what happens to you? Is that what goes on?
You mean when I'm not trying hard enough?
I guess. Yeah, does that make sense? That's really interesting to me.
Yeah, I guess so.
Ah.
So there's probably times you have intense emotion and you don't know what to do.
Yeah, I mean, like, that makes me angry.
Fair enough. And at the same time, it sounds like your mom doesn't know what to do or doesn't understand it, which is just what invalidation is. It's not on purpose. It's no one's fault. It just means she doesn't know what to do or doesn't understand it. And hopefully in DBT, we'll help her understand it a little bit more so she can figure out how to help you versus make it worse like she's concerned about. So the conclusions of this cycle, which is no one's fault, it just happens, is people can result in not validating themselves, so they don't trust their emotions, or they learn big emotions work better for them, or they try to contain their emotions, like stuff it down, like you might say pull yourself together, which might lead to a bigger explosion later because they're not naturally expressing their feelings or pushing it away, and then it's a bigger explosion. And what also happens is, individuals walk away saying, I just need to try harder. I just can't figure this out. And clearly I'm, missing something. So I always think about people with a learning disability, and they're getting told study more, and maybe they can't read, or maybe they don't understand the material, and so they're stuck thinking, I'm obviously just not good enough and need to try harder. But no matter how hard they try, they'll just not reach the goal they want. So that's the cycle of biosocial theory. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess.
Does it make sense to you?
Yeah, it does. It does. You know, I'm thinking of your grandmother who sort of acts that way also. And, you know, anytime she blows up, your dad goes and checks in on her, right?
Look, maybe people are jerks to her too.
So we're going to help the environment figure out how to respond to you. So that's mom. And we're going to help, and the rest of your family. And we're going to help you get more skills to manage too. So you can take those skills with you throughout the rest of your life. Okay?
If you say so.
Think we can try to do that together?
Sure.
Awesome. I'm glad you're willing. Me too. I'm excited to work with you both.
Thank you. Thank you.
Welcome. Thanks.